when I finish off this program, because I have raw data, I can show you also. It will be interesting, and it will be my pleasure to show you all. Okay. Yeah. Let me now quickly go with the data. One second. Yeah. Yeah. So we were here. Okay. Now, just to you can see this one. Okay, one second. Okay, so I said we have to look at all those positions and bucket them. Then, so these are the companies where we looked at saying that participating companies, they have to be a very good mix of companies where the scale, size, everything matters, and even location. I also talked about location. You can look at local, regional, national, international. Okay, now when it comes to, this is the interesting thing, most of the HR managers will have a challenge. Say, for example, can you see the data? Are you able to see the data?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you able to see the data? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you get a salary survey, typically you will get very, very clearly stating, I want to connect the dots now. You will get either it is total guaranteed cash. Okay. Means what? It's all fixed salary.
Fixed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or you can also get total remuneration, and sometimes every report will define what does total remuneration mean, what all does it add. Does it add fixed salary plus benefits plus whatever, so that you are on the same page when you are comparing your total remuneration with the market data. Okay, so these are some things which every report will carry in terms of, if I have said total guaranteed cash, what are those components which I have taken into consideration when I say total guaranteed cash? This is very, very important. Now, next thing, I showed you how we calculate percentiles on that Excel format. Okay, say for example, assistant, we are taking simple assistant vice president, looking at those pool of comparator companies. I have analyzed the data of those 10 companies or 20 companies or 30 companies, and then based on the total guaranteed cash, I've said that a 10th percentile, this is an old data, so an AVP gets say about around 14 lakhs, and at a 25th percentile, how much is it? 15 lakhs. At a 50th percentile, 16 lakhs, and at a 75th percentile, 17 lakhs, and at a 90th percentile, 19 lakhs. I showed you in the Excel sheet, when you have data, how you can arrive at these percentiles. No, that's clear?
Yeah.
The list of companies' data, what consulting companies do, they analyze it in that format, and then they will put it in the percentile format. Now, having said that, for example, in your company, say for example, Leena or Rajeshri, okay, Rajesh says, hey, my assistant vice president is drawing how much salary? Is drawing say 18 lakhs per month. So first of all, first step, where will you identify him? Which percentile will you identify him? I'm looking at assistant vice president salaries, and I said 18 lakhs. So will I say he's between 50th percentile and 75th percentile? No, because this is 16 and this is 17, and I'm saying how much. You say for example, he's getting 18 lakhs. Then if he's 18 lakhs, it is between 75th and 90th percentile. But for some calculation, I'm saying he's only getting paid say 16 lakhs. Okay. Now I want to move him to 75th percentile. What does it mean? My AVP is getting 16 lakhs. I want to move him to 75th percentile. That means what is the catch up I need to do?
1 lakh.
That means I have to then pay him around 17 lakhs, right? Got it. You all got it. Now, how will I make that decision? Will I pay him? Say, for example, what are those factors which will impact my pushing him to 75th percentile? So typically what happens, organizations, when they get a salary report, and first of all, they will look at 50th percentile. Why 50th percentile? That is the midpoint. Okay. They will look at the midpoint and say, hey, are my salaries around the midpoint of market or below the midpoint of the market? Because that is very, very important. At least they should be somewhere. This 50th percentile is very important. Then if I want to be at a 75th percentile, maybe for few positions because they are critical, they are strategic, or they are hot. So based on several things, then I will increase it to 75th percentile or whichever percentile I want to position. Because if I'm catching up, if I'm increasing somebody's salary, that means my budget will go up. So there are several considerations, or maybe I will just say, hey, I want to know the indicator, that's it. So I only want to know, am I paying sufficiently at the midpoint, median point? That's okay. So there are several considerations to consider before I push somebody's salary to higher, for a higher catch-up. Okay. So typically organizations will not randomly just say, okay, because I have to position myself in 75th percentile and I'm only paying at a 50th percentile. Now I will actually increase cutting across all the roles in the organization. I'm going to increase everybody's salary. They will not do that. They will actually then cut and slice their data in terms of who are my top performers, whom do I have to retain, or then they say annual increment is coming. So maybe for the non-performers, I will not give them a catch-up. I will only then, give a catch-up for these top performers. Now, having said that, this is the interesting point. When I'm saying I'm going to increase somebody's salary to 75th percentile by 17 lakhs, what does it mean? It does not mean that I'm increasing a person's salary. I'm increasing the band. I'm increasing the grade. Because what happens is you are not doing a person-to-person increase. You are widening the band. Are you with me, guys? Because many a times what happens, it is misunderstood that when we are doing compensation survey and you're saying, hey, I'm actually increasing the salary of Venki or I'm increasing the salary of Monali. No, I'm widening that band and ensuring so the midpoint also goes up. Okay, the band, so the minimum also goes up. You got that? Now the question is, in the morning, at the beginning, Venki was mentioning about, we have this challenge a lot many times that people whom we get from the market are paid high, and people who are always also in the same job doing the same thing with the same requirement are getting lesser money, right? What is this called? There is a term used for this. The term is called salary compression. Okay? As component experts, we should know what is salary compression. Typically, I'll give you an example. Every year, we take management trainees, no? Every year, typical organizations. Every year, you will see that the entry-level salary of the management trainee is higher than the previous person. Is it not so? When he comes on board, then they'll say, hey, but we are getting less salary. Person is doing the same job. Does it happen? Why do you think it happens in some of the organizations? When you don't do market corrections. In the minds of people, market correction is not only person where we are hiring from market. Before you take a person at a higher salary, you have to check internally that how much are you paying internally for a job with the same effort, same experience, okay, in comparison to the job you are hiring from the market. And if you have not made market correction, typically this has been there in most of the mom and pop shops or in smaller organizations where people doing similar jobs internally get less salaries and they keep continuing to be in the lesser. As a result, what happens to their comp ratio? Even if they are very, very good, their comp ratios are very low, and the same job done by another person who has just been recruited, hired, is at a higher comp. Got it? Many a time this happens. Have you experienced it in organization? This is called salary compression. And people, what happens? They are frustrated, they are demotivated, and they'll say, hey, there is no point working hard in this organization. It's better to leave, because people who come from outside always get better increases. They are taken at a higher level as in compared to, there is no value for people if you are staying for a longer time. So organizations, what is that they don't do? They are not doing an annual salary survey and doing market corrections. What are they not doing? Market corrections. But for example, when I was this CHRO for Sutherland, every organization has this problem. When you start up, what happens? Typically, you don't have a pay structure. You are actually taking people by a handshake. You know, it's more like a person to person based salary structure. So after some time, you find that there is no internal equity and also no external equity. And that's the time, because you have scaled up, you say, hey, we have to now look at our compensation structures. So typically, what do? Every year during annual increment, we calculate the comp ratio for every individual, unit by unit or business by business. Okay. Now, after calculating comp ratio, what is comp ratio? I am getting a salary of, say, for example, my base salary is 12,000 rupees per month. The midpoint is, say, 18,000. Midpoint means the middle point or median. Okay. So for every employee, you are calculating base divided by midpoint multiplied by 100, the comp ratio. Okay. Now, when you are giving annual increments is the time when there are two individuals doing the same job, doing the same level, but one is at a certain, in the same min to maximum at a certain point at a low comp, somebody at a high comp, but his rating is also 4. I give less increment to the person who is at a higher comp and more increment to the person who is at a lower comp. Why? Because I won't have so much of budget. So in 2 years or 3 years, I'll just take a minute and I'll take a question. In 2 to 3 years, then I will try and ensure that there is equity and ensure that there is fairness in the way I'm paying salary to all my employees. That's the time I start doing what is this called, comp ratio analysis, and ensure that proportionately in 2 years or 3 years, I will try and do this. Salary compression is not there, because if salary compression is there for 80% of the people, the people are disengaged. There's no productivity. People will then attrite. You will not be able to retain your top performers. They will just leave their jobs and go away. Okay. Yeah, I can take questions so that it is not a heavy load. Yep. Somebody was wanting to ask a question.
How can we get the data, the salary data from the competitors?
Who is this person? Is that
Venkat?
Venkat. Okay. Yeah. So have you understood this? Venkat, I will just attend to your question in a couple of minutes. I'll just close the loop. Okay. So I'll close the loop for salary survey, saying that the process is identifying benchmark positions, looking at comparator companies, then getting data from the comparator companies, and then what do? Then analyzing your data in terms of percentiles, and then positioning yourself as to which percentile you want to pitch, and accordingly you can make those corrections. Having said that, Venkat said, from where will I source data? In today's times, if you don't have the money, what can you do? there are certain websites which give free data. I don't touch so much on Glassdoor, but yes, Glassdoor gives you a lot of salary data. Okay, and payscale.com. There are many sites which give free data. So one of the ways you can get data is looking at this published surveys where they give you a lot of free data. That's one way. Two, if you want data without spending money, you can also be a participant. Johan Hewitt, Mercer, what do? They actually, every year, they publish surveys across industries. So what do? Then they will send out letters to all the companies across industries to get data. You can become a participant by participating in this survey, and you get sufficient input, an executive summary, which gives you good understanding of where is your industry or your businesses, where are they pitched, and what is the percentage of hike, and what is that you need to do. Okay, that is. Then third, you can also then do a customized survey by paying some amount of money. Okay, then you identify companies, and the consultant will then get the data from it. Or the best and the easiest method and less expensive is, all the big consulting organizations have a lot of data, compensation data. You can say, hey, so you can ask for data which they will negotiate and give it at a much cheaper, because what happens, they are not going out to get data from companies. They already have it there with them. So it's a matter of, business model for them. So they can always give you the data. Okay. So these are some ways of getting the data. But still you will say, hey, but I don't know, I can't spend any amount of money. Do a dipstick survey. What does that mean? You call up people, okay, of 5-6 companies, and then they might be thinking that you are actually calling them for interview or offering jobs. Get the data. This is called dipstick survey. And
Ma'am, I had used this method. Being in recruitment, I have Naukri and other portals. So I had used this method to do a small survey of compensation. I had collected data from these recruitment portals.
In fact, I typically, what I do, whether it was in Tata's or Sutherland or Apollo Health Street, I take 2 interns from the best management institutes every year. Okay, 2 months or 3 months. They're quite motivated, enthusiastic. I give them the guidance, and they do all this primary, secondary, going through all the portals and talking to Naukri.coms, Monster.coms, and also then internally recruitment. You actually get a lot of CVs. So you pull out data from there, and this is much accurate and inexpensive. And also maintain this discipline of your recruitment. Should always maintain this discipline of getting resumes and maintaining your salary data, because that could be very authentic. Because in salary survey, if your data is not accurate, then you are not actually, then it is not a meaningful exercise at all. And I typically also call people, if I want to get some good companies data, then, typically people always love to get jobs. So they'll come and attend your interviews. So they'll give you a salary slips, right? I know we HR people have to wear so many caps sometimes, right? Okay. So in essentially salary survey, what happens, it is, to summarize salary survey, what is it? You're trying to get market data, your comparator data. You have to ensure that the right set of companies are there. Okay. Otherwise, then you are not making meaningful exercise. You are spending effort, everything, but is not going to be meaningful. And then, are you collecting the right kind of data? Okay. Are you very, very sure of what are the various components you want to collect? And then do this, what I gave you, you can do it in-house actually, all this analysis. Today, you use Tableau. Okay, very, very easy tool, Tableau. It's a very nice BI tool. And today, you can actually go to website, download Tableau, which 7 days or 10 days or 14 days, you can practice it. And you can do a lot of analysis, and it gives you visual representations, etc. at the click of a button. And also enhances your competencies as a COE, Center of Excellence Compensation Expert. And that's how you start designing your salary. Okay? Yeah.
Ma'am, I have a doubt. So
Yeah.
let's take a hypothetical case. So I just seek your advice in this. So let's say we are part of the startup team or a startup organization, and you are entering into an industry which is already well established earlier, a new industry, like a conglomerate is entering an industry which is established earlier, and then you want to attract talent, right? So at the same time, since you want to make a good foundation, you only want to seek candidates from the best organizations in that industry, right? Now, having said that, we do our due diligence and we ensure that we don't cross the percentage of hike that has to be given. And you can attribute it to our smartness or negotiation ways or the flagship company brand name which is existing, that people are ready to come within the market average hike, right? So around 15 to 20%, right? And these are all the performers in their current companies, so they are already high pot. Then probably after a year or two, suddenly the management gets up, the group company management, and then they try to do a comp benchmarking survey. And then you're given to understand by one of the best consultants, I mean, let it be Aon or Watson or Ace, that I mean, God knows from where they get the data, but then suddenly you're portrayed as if you have hired over expensive guys.
Okay.
Now this is, I'm talking from purely a revenue generation vertical point of view, right?
Okay.
So wherein we present to the management with all facts and data showing what was the then current salary of the existing revenue generation team and how much have we offered. They still feel that we have overpaid the employees, which is not the fact, but as per the Aeons and the Watson of the world, they feel our employees are already overbanded compared to market.
Okay.
So now if they want us to get a parity, not within the organization, but when you compare to the industry, right? So how do we do it? Because there are some I wouldn't say out of the box, but according to me, so there are some illogical statements coming from many people. From my organization, you can do this, you can do that, something which is not viable, right? So, so ma'am, what is your suggestion? How do we do it?
So given this kind of a scenario, okay, it might help because I will generally, so typically what happens, there are a lot of startups who are into kind of a high value added products and services. Okay, so when you are into a high value added product and services, you have to hire the best talent from the best organization. Got it? Now, what does it mean? That even if you pay, how will you attract those people? Okay, so obviously you are a startup. There are some things, very basic principles. One, there is something called payroll cost or wage cost percentage for every industry, right? But typically in startups, you haven't even started making revenue, etc. So these certain things do not apply in a startup. Okay, what is that? Wage cost per turnover, wage cost per employee. Like manufacturing organizations, there is a cost which is typically between 4 to 5 to 6%. Even if you increase it by 0.5%, because your cost of the product goes up. So typically you cannot let it happen. Like in a service organizations, your wage costs are much higher, 30% to 40%. So depending on whatever product it is, your wage cost is there. Now coming to this, so in startup will have a strategy. So what will be the strategy? So what happens? You'll have a business objective. You'll have so you'll know what kind of skills and competencies you need. Then you'll design an organal structure. You'll say, hey, this 3 or 4 positions are very, very critical to drive the organization, right? Because you will identify key strategic roles which drive that business. Okay. So when you say that this is what is going to really, these are the people, these are the positions which I want at any cost. So what happens then? You will get the best. You don't mind paying any amount. then obviously sometimes even benchmarking doesn't help, because you are not going to hire 10 R&D guys, or no, you want that one real R&D guy who can really, in research and development companies, you will have one super guy who can actually do everything for you. You don't mind paying over and above the market as well. So there is nothing like benchmarking there. You want to buy. So that's a strategy. Okay. And sometimes even if you can't do that, then you will promise them some kind of a stock, equity, options, etc., saying that, you are also a partner. So that is one more way of motivating people, giving them stares and shocks and all that stuff. Okay. Now, having said that, now when you said that, we have, so you can't take people 60%, 50% people over and above the market, because you will definitely look at what is market paying. So it's only 5% of those positions will be very, very strategic. You will pay over and above the market, but the rest of them will have a lag or lead lag. So you need to also look at what are the market levels. So you also need to look at the talent supply kind of a thing. Is this, demand and supply kind of a thing. So operational jobs, if you are into a really high value added item, then probably there might be hot skills and you have to pay more. But typically some of these support functions, etc., then that's where you will say, I will pay lesser than what they are, right? For example, I am a Ferrari, just giving you an example. I'm a Ferrari company, okay? So what happens, what matters to me, Ferrari company, what does it do? It gives you what? Beautiful designed cars. And at what price? At very high price, right? So so what is the key there? Product R&D. So I'm going to really pay very high salaries to that R&D guy, because my entire operation, organization depends on that R&D guy. Design, quality, okay? But to others I may pay less. But like, now look at Maruti. What will I do? Or a Toyota. There it is, what is it? Efficiency. It is what matters is the quality at a cost effectiveness. So there I'm not going to really look at, paying very high to all this, because my SOPs, standard operating procedures will be there. So my salaries will be less. So with regard to the startup, whenever you are doing a startup, yes, there will be only 5% of the positions you are going to pay high. Barring that, you are not going to pay really over and above the market. Not that the entire population is going to be paid very high. Getting me?
I think my question still remains unsolved.
It is that part. I just, yeah. Can you just repeat that part which is unsolved?
Yeah, so should we take it offline? So I don't want to waste
No, so I'll just take 1 minute. The impact it creates whenever you take people on a very high salary is that you have already reached the end of the maximum. Now, I mean, not specific to your question, but typically what happens, I'm talking about the designing and taking people, high comp ratios. So what happens when you reach the end, either you have to push him out, or you have to promote him, but he is not a promotable candidate. Now you have to stop his increment and only give him a lump sum allowance every year on year. But what happens if you have a person who is already reached the maximum end of that band and you are not able to promote him because there is no vacancy or you don't want to promote him? Then what happens? You are actually demotivating the person. There, most of the organization do this mistake of getting the best of breed of people at a very high salary, at very high comp ratios, and thereafter they find that they are not able to keep giving them increments year on year because they are already sitting on high fat salaries. And when you give them just a lump sum allowance, which is actually called just a bonus, then you are demotivating him. So a best of breed person becomes demotivated. Either he reduces his productivity or you lose him, and then he creates a lot of, again, what I call it as, unrest and stress, and he takes away, and it creates a lot of disengagement in the organization. So such strategy is also very bad, because I've seen a lot of organizations which mix up value discipline, bringing people from companies which pay high salaries and bringing them to a different value discipline, making them sit on a high comp, and then at the end of it, then you'll cut a sorry figure saying, hey, this person is really not performing. But actually it is not his fault. It is the entire strategy. problem. Okay. All right. Yeah. Sorry, guys. So to close this, so in a salary survey, the key features are that once you get your data, it is for you to then decide whether you want to catch up, whether you want to make a mix of it based on your compensation philosophy and strategy. Then you design your own structures. All right. Yeah. I want to leave 10 minutes so that I can actually respond to questions. Because in a subject like salary survey, I'm sure there will be questions and I could easily respond to them. Yeah.
You want to take it in the end, the questions?
Yeah. We can take the questions now.
Okay. The question I have is, okay, could you please spell the name of Tableau, the site Tableau?
Yeah, you just go to Tableau, Tableau.
Leau, right? Okay.
Yeah, this is a BI tool.
Okay, one.
What you need to do is go to their website and download.
Okay.
And it is free for use for at least 10 days to 15 days. And this tool integrates, you can link up to 2 sets of data, 3 sets of data. It pulls all the data, you can churn, etc. And then you can analyze and do visualization, etc.
Second question is, back in Motorola, they would ask us to insist on force fit the salary in a bell curve. Okay, and that's something that we had hard time doing as HR people, because each of the units we had to, without a choice, force fit the salaries in to form a bell curve, and it was insistent. So how do we address that kind of situation?
Well, Alina, I think for many 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades, we've been actually putting up with this bell curve. But if you have actually recently seen, all the organizations have seen that the bell curve is not actually motivating people. It is rather demotivating and it is not helping with productivity. So people have moved away from the bell curve. Most of the IT organizations have moved away from the bell curve. Okay, because force fitting. Now, say Google, you are doing 7 rounds, 8 rounds, you're taking the best of breed people. And then, will you then put them in a bell curve and say, hey, this, on a rating scale of 1 to 5, this is, 5 and 4 and 3 and 2, then what happens to this guy who's pulled, and just because it is not, he is not being fitted into that bell. So I have, so therefore, when you're taking, because the environment, 2 decades, 3 decades ago, when environment was stable, consistent, it was good enough. It was holding good. Okay, but now today what is happening? You're taking the best of breed. Ultimately, what happens? You also have to see that does it have a correlation with productivity, right? What is important is what I call it as the business outcome or the lag indicator, which is productivity, revenue. So is your bell curve supporting that revenue and productivity? If it is not, then why should you not have? Why should you have it? Getting me? So a lot of people, and I will take it as a separate thing where I will tell you what organizations are doing, different organizations are doing, how are they evaluating performance and how are they rewarding. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else who wants to ask few questions on salaries survey or so that, we can just look at this.
Ma'am, when there is a niche profile, how should we, pay the salaries, or how should we evaluate that compensation? What type of compensation we are supposed to give?
Monali, first of all, I want to know what do you mean by niche profile, right?
Yeah, so that is the scope of work.
Yeah. Yeah, Monali.
Yeah. So when the salaries, when the profile of the person, okay, like in startups, usually they give a lot of scope to the person. Okay. Apart, like when we source them, they have a set of talent that they come on board with. Okay, a specific skill set. But when they are asked to work, the scope of the job increases.
broadens. Okay.
broadens. Okay, so sometimes even their core skills are not used, but the other skills are supposed to be there. So in
Okay.
such cases, how should we compensate, or how should we do the survey?
So recall, I talked about in the first day, I talked about variable pay, right? In variable pay, I talked about merit pay. And in merit pay, I talked about what one is cross-skill and upskill. So if you have certain certifications, if you have certain things, so rather than bringing him on board at a high base salary, you first of all design a structure and look at competitors and have a structure. When I'm having a structure, that means what you are actually putting some rigor and discipline in saying these are 3 bands or 4 bands. They have a min and max, right? So then when you have a min and max, the min typically represents what? The min represents a green circle. What we mean to say is nobody should be paid less than the minimum, green circle, and the maximum represents the red circle. That means I should not bring anybody over and above the red circle. Okay, because if I pay over and above the red circle, what happens? I'm actually then creating a kind of a confusion in the entire structure. Okay, so we have to follow by these rules of red circle and green circle. Having said that, if you have brought him on a particular band, now you find that he has a lot of other skills. So give him certain variable kind of allowances or bonuses, which will say, hey, because of this, we are giving you this. Why? Because it will not add on. It will not be like a guaranteed cash. Are you getting me? So you have to be very, very careful. Pay for him for that job, whatever it is. And if you think you are making him do other things, pay in terms of bonuses, because he's doing good job, pay more bonus, etc. But at least it will not be like, hey, this is my guaranteed, I should get it on year. Okay, because then it gets linked to your increment, etc. And that means higher wage cost.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah, Kundan Rawat. Yes, any questions, sir? None?
No.
So you have understood everything, sir? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
So I just want to take you to that data which we were doing, and that day we were in a rush to do things, so I don't. Yeah. So if you recall, I'm just showing you this last session's data because it also has market salary data. Okay. So when I have done the internal equity and I've actually assigned points, so then I get the total points for every job, right? Then when I have done the market salary, then when I'm designing what is that I need to pay, say for example, what is the pay line salary for an HR team lead here? Anybody? Yeah, so that you know why I'm. Can you see this? I'm not able to. This number, how much is this?
1,48,000.
Yeah. So 1,48,000. So this is the pay line salary. Okay. Now pay line salary cannot be just a single point. What happens when you're designing a structure? You have to create a band around it, because you have to give a leeway, flexibility in terms of somebody you want to give it. So here at a lower level, you can always make, what is that called, if you want to create that min and a maximum around this band, you have to do minus 10% here and plus 10%. So to this 1,48,000, you add plus 10% and make it as your maximum, and you do minus 10% and create that minimum. So once you do that, then what happens? You may acquire another HR team lead, and maybe you want to start at a lesser salary, but in the same band or in the same grade. Are you with me? So that's how once you do this pay line salaries through regression method, you create, whether it's Hewitt, Mercer, etc., then they create what is it called pay bands. How are pay bands created? Pay bands are created by creating a range. So when I say range, that means I'm doing a min and a max rather than a center point. So at low level, the range can be between 15 to 25%. At a middle level, as I said, 30 to 40 to 50%. At the top level, they could be anywhere between 60 to 70%. Now, again, the ranges or the ranges, that is the spread, will vary depending on whether you are narrow banding or broad banding. Now, how will you take a decision of narrow banding or broad banding? Depending on, again, your nature of your organizations. If your job stretch is not there, there is no elasticity much, okay, then what happens? Every 2 to 3 years, like public sector organizations, you have to be promoted. Then what happens? You will have a narrow band. So when I say narrow band, the definition of a narrow band is that the spread is very narrow. And in a broad band, what is the definition? You have the spread is very, very wide. It could be like as wide as 100 to 200% also. So there will be only few levels. So most of the IT organizations are broadband, because what happens, they have titles which take care of many functions and many titles in one band. Okay, so it allows flexibility, and also in terms of comp administration, there is less burden. Okay, guys. So is that understood? When it comes to designing of a structure, how do you create a band, and the difference in the ranges are dependent on how many bands you want to make, whether it's a narrow band or a broad band. Okay. Any questions?
Ma'am, can you give an example for this?
For which one? Just tell me.
For narrow banding and with
narrow banding. What is narrow banding? I don't know whether I can show one. Oh, sorry guys, I did not keep that in this. Huh? Yeah, I'll just show the slide. Okay, maybe I will just use a whiteboard. 1 second. Huh? Yeah. So when I talked about narrow band, okay, so the narrow band could be I'll just explain to you. Huh? Okay. So what is a band? Band is min, max. Okay. So when I talk about a band, so sorry, if this is this one, min, max. Now the spread is very small, so narrow. Now every 2 to 3 years you have to shift that person. So that means the tenure of that person, that he reaches to the end of the band in a very short span of time. Did you get that? In 2-3 years, means 2-3 increments, he reaches to the maximum. Then you have to push him. For example, public sector. How many bands they have? 20 to 25. So typically 20 to 25, why I said 20, 25 multiplied with 3 years or 2 years, he reaches his retirement. No? You can't have 30, 40. So typically 20 to 25, because if in every band is going to be there for 3 years or 2 years. Okay. Maximum it will be 20, 22. take any public sector organizations, narrow bands. Why? That the scope of the job is very tight. Okay, it does not allow much of elasticity. So you have to forcibly, the job description say allows you to do only that much work. So in 2 to 3 years, it goes up to another band. Now, irrespective of whether there is job content change, but he is going to another level. But look at broadband. Now I can make all these 3 bands into one band. Then I can make all these 3 into one band. That means what? In many of the organizations, you will have one band like this, which has very broad, this is your minimum and this is your max. And there will be 3 sub bands in it. Again, you know, one band and then sub bands. Okay. So not that every year I have to change his grade. What will happen? The impact, I may be getting more salary in the sub bands, but my benefits will be to this band. My benefits will be to this band. Got it?
Use this pay line salary to this.
Pardon?
How to use the pay line salary in this? This is what I was just looking for. You said the pay line salary.
Yeah, I'm going to that.
The Excel sheet.
Yeah,
In that we had a column pay line salary.
Ah.
How to use?
Excellent.
To use this?
Excellent. Excellent. So excellent question. I think I missed out telling you all how to create bands.
Yeah.
Normally what happens in organizations, they pay salaries as per the point plan and give benefits as per the grading. Now I have these points. Have you seen points? Okay. So first of all, these points, which is the lowest or the minimum? Can you, is it visible?
170, store assistant.
170. Which is the highest?
Technical chief, 380.
380. Okay. So the range is 170 to 380. Points minimum is 170 and maximum is 380. Can a job start from 0 points? It can't, because when you evaluate a job, it will have to have some minimum points, at least 100 points, at least 150 points. Okay. So what happens typically when you're doing, then you will put all your points saying that, and then you will put all those jobs. That means ascending order or descending order. That's the first step. Got it? If you recall, I did something called job paired comparison. Did I do paired comparison? Where we did ranking, where we bucketed jobs, cluster analysis we did. We bucketed jobs of similar nature. Likewise, now if I have to create bands out of point plan, I will say one at the lower level, I will say 50 points or 100 points. I'll say 170 to 270, 170 to 270, or I will say 170 to how much? 50 points. What will it be? 220? 220?
Yeah.
I will say that will be my lower band. Then I will look at all the jobs which are falling with those points, which are falling in those points. Did you get that point? What did I say? Say for example, at a lower level, I'll take a cutoff of 50 points. That means what? 170 will fall. Then what is the next job?
170, then 20.
So even 230. Okay?
Engineer.
So 170 is senior store assistant. 230 is HR team lead. So what I will see, hey, these 2 jobs, irrespective of function, are they similar? Are they having supervisory, thing? So at the cutoff, I will look at this position. Do you think it should be in that grade 1 or should it be in the higher grade? So if they are similar, then I will put both HR team lead and senior store assistant. So that means 170 to 230 in one grade. Okay. Then next I will look at 232. I will increase the number of points, say 230 to 300. So 230. Then all, see, even in that 200 also will get into this engineer. So
Correct.
This also will get into grade 1. So what will I do typically? I will take 50 points, 100 points, 150 points. So I will cut off all those jobs which will fall under these points, I will cluster them and then look at are they of similar nature, and especially at the cutoff I need to take into consideration and create grades. Okay, well guys, but this is definitely a science, but there's also a little art, so it doesn't come off in one iteration, because you have to go back to the drawing board of job description, and it takes 2 or 3 iterations. Okay, so that's how you translate from points to job grading. Okay, I will send you some material on this. How do you translate point plan to grades? Okay. Yeah, let me get back to main. Yeah. So to summarize, if I were to summarize, typically a compensation benchmarking or a market pricing is done keeping in view that you want to establish external equity. Okay. Now, so when I talk about establish external equity, that means organizations want to pay their salary or want to compare their salary in comparison to what the market is paying. Okay, and they want to actually take a position in terms of, you know, what kind of salary should they be paying. In order to get to know about the market data, then they have to follow a process called salary survey process, wherein you first identify your benchmark positions, then you collect data on the various salary components, and then you analyze, do a statistical treatment of mean, median, mode, etc., and then get to percentiles, and then analyze the data vis-a-vis your data, your compensation data, and then see whether you are paying. Typically start looking at median data, mean data, mode data, and then take a stand as to where are you standing and what is the catch-up you want to do. Okay, and the strategy, compensation strategy, is typically then based on this compensation benchmarking, because then you will decide for which positions will I want to pay higher than the market. So who are my key strategic roles? Then to which positions will I pay less than the market, because there is not much of a demand and the huge supply of these positions, and I will pay on par with the market for these positions because these are not of a much critical, but yet they are important. So that is the kind of a strategy you will decide. Okay guys, so with this we conclude on salary surveys. And then in the next session, what we will be doing is we'll be looking at variable pays, short term, long term, in terms of, you know, how do we actually then design a variable pay plan, and also looking at what is that, pay for performance plans, etc.